they do.
Yeah,
I'll be very comfortable too.
it is very comfortable.
Mine's in my purse.
Oh.
You shouldn't hear it. Mine.
That was the YouTube notification. It's very loud.
Okay, I call this special meeting of the Town of Rochester Town Board to order. Would you stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dave, if you would do a roll call, please.
Councilman Anemon.
Here,
Councilman Hopkins.
Here.
Councilman Hewitt. Absent. Councilman Paddock.
Here.
Supervisor Baby.
Here. Excuse me. We have 4 resolutions to do. To start with an opening, there are only 3. The page that I put in front of you came to me this afternoon with a request. So the first resolution is a request from Open Space Institute for a letter of support for the consolidated funding application 2021. And these are all due on Friday, which is why I put them on today's agenda instead of Thursday. So many of them want to try to apply early. So this is whereas OSI proposes to undertake a feasibility study of creating a major new rail trail and linear park for the entire 60-mile length of the bed of the former Kingston Port Jervis branch of the O&W Railroad, which runs through Ulster, Sullivan, and Ulster. Oh, I cut and pasted, but obviously they listed Ulster twice. Counties from the city of Kingston south to the city of Port Jervis. I think it's probably supposed to be orange, one of those. Whereas approximately 38 miles of this rail bed is already owned by municipalities or the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and is actively used and highly popular as a recreational trail and linear park. And whereas OSI will assess the feasibility of acquiring the private gaps in this rail bed and improving currently unimproved sections of the entirety of its 60-mile length. Now, therefore, the town of Rochester authorizes the town supervisor to submit a letter of support for Open Space Institute's upcoming grant proposal to the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation through the consolidated funding application process. I have a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I have a second.
a second.
Questions, discussion?
Yes, because this letter hinges on a resolution. And the letter requested is for a feasibility study,
Mhm.
which I agree is a good idea. But then in the second part here, they're asking for something more. Now, what would be the purpose of the Open Space Institute taking this over when it's already owned by New York State? The rail bed's owned by New York State, correct?
No, actually, the rail bed is owned, like they said, 38 miles of rail bed are owned by municipalities. 22 miles are owned by private individuals. Some have easements over it. Some do not. It's a hodgepodge of segmentation, including the gap here in Accord, which was all sold off to individuals, and we have been attempting as a town to find an alternative to following the original rail bed. So
What's the length of the gap here in Rochester?
approximately 2 miles. I'm not sure exactly. I call it the 2 mile gap. I've never
Okay.
actually sat down and measured it. but-
Okay. So this no longer belongs to the O&W.
No, it will. The OSI is not looking to take ownership of it. OSI is just looking to provide the funding.
She said O and W.
O and
O
W.
and W.
O&W is no longer
No,
in
it is no
possession.
longer, O and W does not, railroad does cease to exist probably back in the 40s, 50s. I don't know exactly when.
Okay.
1957.
Thank you. So, and different pieces and parts were, the section in the town of Rochester is actually like 9 or 10 different segments. If you
That
actually
people
look at
own
that.
privately. Now. it's a
No, I
part-
mean, many are owned by the town of Rochester, but there's a piece that is one SBL, there's another piece that's another SBL. It's not one continuous.
Well,
If you look on the tax map, you will see there's various pieces.
have they also approached Warsing?
Yes, they're
And
sending they've sent this same letter to every town who is part of the O and W.
Okay, do we have any of those to go with this in any way, shape, or form? They're expecting the same thing from each of the other
I'm just going
towns.
by what OSI sent us.
Well-
This is, I forwarded you, I believe I forwarded you the email.
You
the
did.
request.
I
Yep.
have all of that
So-
too.
Yep, so this was the request that came from OSI.
And they gave us the form letter that they would like us to write. I
Correct.
have that. But that doesn't answer my questions as to how the other towns feel about this. I would like to, we're given 5 days to make a decision on a grant.
Well, I did share this with everybody last Monday and. you know,
Yeah, oh,
so
I'm
you
not
all
saying
have-
that. I'm
yeah,
not saying,
yeah.
but I'm saying today to vote on it. We have 5 days. And what's bothering me with these grants, it seems like they're coming in at the last minute and we don't know what else is involved. By that, I mean, if you're gonna do a feasibility study, great. Let's get the feasibility study to see if you can even do it before we give you the supporting resolution.
Well, and the supporting resolution is for the feasibility study though. To pay for the cost of the feasibility study. That's what the grant funding will do. The grant funding will pay for the feasibility study. This is very similar to what OSI did in New Paltz when they improved the carriage roads and connected the Wallkill Valley Rail Trail.
Well,
Over the-
that's great,
Yeah,
Mike, but what I'm worried about is how does Warsing feel about this? How does Mamacating, the village of Ellenville, well, Ellenville, I don't know, but Deer Park, Wurtsboro, Kingston, Port Jervis? I guess what I would like is some more information on the background of this. We're always giving our support to these things that we have no background on.
Well, I'm not sure what other municipalities, I mean, quite frankly, from a selfish point of view, this is going to help us with a very expensive feasibility study of closing a 2-mile gap that many of these other towns don't have. So,
I don't know what other towns have.
well,
That's my point. I
I-
don't know what other towns have. And that's why I'm asking all these questions. And it is related. I mean, we're constantly okaying things, but we never do any work with the surrounding area to
we've,
see how they feel.
we've been doing a lot of work with this gap. The Rail Trail Committee has been working on closing this gap for quite some time. And quite frankly, this is a gift
But
to get
this,
this to fall in our lap, to have somebody else.
that's the
apply for
rail, the
funding.
Rail Trail Committee and the Open Space Institute are one and the same.
No.
Well, that's
But
my
Open Space
question.
Institute is, as a not-for-profit, similar to what they did with the, Stone Ridge, I said Stone Ridge, I'm sorry, the connection from the Wallkill Valley.
I'm not saying that I don't want to see us connect this 2 miles.
Mhm.
Understand that. But why wouldn't our own Rail Trail Commission get this grant and do it as well? Why wouldn't they want to do it here in our town instead of 30, whatever it is, the
60
difference,
miles?
60 miles?
Because OSI, I'll be honest, a grant like of this magnitude stands a much greater chance of getting funded than a grant with one little piece. There's a very limited
There's
amount of
something,
money out there.
I'm missing something here and I'm not knowing what it is. And what I'm saying to you is grants are good things, even though maybe you think I don't think so. I do, but I don't understand this Open Space Institute who has purchased land and then decided they didn't want it and sold it back for profit.
No,
And that's
actually,
my
that's
worry.
incorrect. What open space does is they buy land and then they turn it over to other entities. They buy it, they preserve it, and then they turn it over. But they're not proposing to buy anything on this.
No, they're proposing to do a feasibility study.
Right.
Therefore, I would like to see them get, I don't know how to do this, but I would like to see them get the grant for the feasibility, but I don't want to move ahead if I don't even know that it's feasible. Maybe am I missing something here? Do you
I think
normally?
the grant is to determine, if they get the grant, they will determine if it's feasible or not. That's the purpose of the grant.
It's the first step.
I get that it's the first
Yeah.
step, okay? And maybe it's not that I understand grants and I understand how they work, but would you, how do I put this? If you were doing something, why would we give permission to do a feasibility study without input from other towns? And why would anyone do a project without knowing if it's feasible?
So we're not giving them permission with this. This is a letter of support. So they are applying
Okay.
to do this feasibility study, whether we write this letter or not.
We
But
do
these-
give the support and then so we
The
just said,
state wants to see the support from the people that it's serving, in this case, the municipalities. I don't know who will or won't write this letter. Like I said, I'm guessing, I don't know for a fact.
well, that's what
Guessing
I'm
they've
trying
asked
to
every
see.
municipality along the 60-mile. So,
And
That's,
then we're not giving them permission to do the project. We're
Right.
just saying, yeah,
okay, go ahead, get your X amount of dollars for this study, to
Right.
see if you can.
right, but, and then we're not giving permission for the actual, whatever the study's gonna find. We're just saying so number one is the letter of support, and number two is a resolution to,
if we were to pay ourselves for the surveying and everything that would go with closing up that 2-mile gap, it would be a sizable expense that OSI is assuming if they get this grant. So it's essentially, it's research that we will be able to utilize to move forward with next steps.
and then on B, if it's not just us, but if
Yeah,
They-
that's what
yeah,
I'm asking.
they need every single municipality
That's,
to pass this resolution. If they don't, if the others don't, then they can't get this.
that was partially my
Yeah.
question.
Yep.
We don't know what anyone else is
But if
doing.
they say no, then it doesn't
Right.
happen. So it's up to us, I think, to make the determination as a board
Right.
in the town of Rochester, whatever we think, and the other towns will do the same thing.
Right.
And if they don't support it, then they don't qualify.
And,
for the
and I
funding.
don't know if it's required that they have a resolution from every town or not. That part I don't know.
It says it in
Yeah.
B.
Oh,
It does say it in
Okay.
B.
Yeah.
That was that's why I was
Oh, yeah,
asking, do
there.
we know
Yeah,
from
in
any
one
of the other towns how they feel about this? This was my initial,
well,
do we know?
we don't, but if they don't like it, they can vote no. I think our only obligation is for how we feel about the town of Rochester,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Mike, can I ask you a
Well,
question?
Yes,
It's my understanding that, right now that we're cut off, from the Hurley Rail Trail, to at least some degree. When they connect this rail trail, doesn't that bring funding into the town through the New York State Rail Trail?
not necessarily.
Not necessarily, but it
No.
could.
It could. I mean, it opens up by having a connected rail trail that would then be connected to the Empire State Trail.
Empire
It
State Trail.
opens up possibilities of funding down the road. it's not an automatic, there's not a rail trail organization
Mhm.
that provides funding. It's all money you apply for. You've got to have a project that you want to do.
But if you're not connected to it, you can't get it.
Well, I won't say you can't get it, but if you're kind of a standalone element, you're likely not going to get funding because they're going to fund the ones that are more likely to succeed and are larger projects.
Yeah.
You know, just because we pass this resolution doesn't mean that OSI is going to get this at all by any, they're competing against,
Do we even know how much the amount is, by the way?
no,
We don't even know
I don't even
that.
It also, since it's a feasibility study, they might find out that it's not feasible.
Well, that's.
And-
my-
And
that's
so
my-
like, I think the thing is like, it's to create a new 60-mile
Right.
completely connected. What they're trying to look at is, could they acquire the private lands that are gaps? Could they connect the whole thing?
mhm.
And then what would, and I think
Well,
for
what they'll
us,
be
it's-
doing is looking at the cost
right,
of doing all
exactly.
that
Yep,
and what it would take.
right.
And they would be doing the review of that. And I've already told, when speaking to Bob Vandenberg about this, I've already told him that we had initiated through our trail committee of looking at an alternative. And quite frankly, Bob had said to me that he didn't think it was feasible the old way unless we did it through eminent domain, which nobody wants to
No.
do. And so,
That's what I was a
right,
little
so when
afraid
I
of, and don't
approached
wanna do that.
him, but only a town, OSI can't do eminent domain. When I approached him and told him that we were, or when he approached me, excuse me, and I told him that we were looking at an alternative path that follows the roundabout, he was very excited about that. And, so,
Yeah, so they'd be investigating the cost of all the different
Mhm.
options around connecting this.
they
new-
would be doing the initial study, which is just what it says, a feasibility study of the entire 60 miles. They would look where improvements needed to be made, where there were drainage issues, where there were, I mean, these are just examples, signage. They would come up with essentially a concept plan of what needed to be done. And in our particular area, the major thing that needs to be done is that gap needs to be closed up.
Right.
So,
But we're not, I think, for me, it's important to say, all we'd be doing is endorsing the study and the study to happen through Open Space Institute. We're not endorsing the outcome of the study. We're not,
That's what I, yeah,
we're not
that's the
endorsing the
ultimate.
plan of the
Yeah.
study. We're just saying, yes, we think this is a valuable thing
Right.
and we
Yeah.
support it.
That's what I'm saying. I don't have a problem with the grant as long as, like I said, it becomes a feasible thing to do.
well, that's what the study is to determine if it is feasible. So. Okay, ready to call the question?
Sure,
Okay.
sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Okay. Next, this is the request for supporting resolution. Whereas the Open Space Institute is applying to the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation for a grant under Title IX of the Environmental Protection Act of 1993 for a park project to be located in the towns of Hurley, Marbletown, Rochester, Wawarsing, Mamakating, and Deer Park, as well as the villages of Ellenville and Wardsboro and the cities of Kingston and Port Jervis, portion of which is located within the territorial jurisdiction of this council. And whereas as a requirement under the rules of this program, said not-for-profit corporation must obtain the approval endorsement of the governing body of the municipality in which the project will be located. Now therefore be it resolved by this august body that the Town of Rochester Town Board hereby does approve and endorse the application of Open Space Institute for a grant under Title IX of the Environmental Protection Act of 1993 for a park project to conduct a feasibility study to create a comprehensive master plan for the entire length of the ONW railbed stretching from the city of Kingston all the way to the city of Port Jervis, intended to guide improvement of the railbed and eliminate numerous gaps to maximize the potential of the trail for recreation, transportation, quality of life, connectivity, and economic development. So, I have a motion.
I'll make that motion.
And a second,
I'll second.
okay. So this is a similar, it is the feasibility study, but this is to take it the next step.
This resolution will be presented as written, correct? To
Yep.
go with the,
Yeah, this was the resolution, that the wording that they gave me.
Like Deer Park is one word, lowercase p.
Okay,
yeah.
I will correct.
Deer Park, Long Island.
Mhm.
That's correct.
Kate, if you can make that change when you, because I'll need that
Just
certified.
Deer Park with the only change?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, the other one, I don't need a certified resolution for.
Okay.
And the letter, you're going to take verbatim from what they sent
The
us?
template that
The
they sent,
template that
Yeah,
they sent. You
yeah,
have this?
that was my plan. I
Okay,
didn't see any, it just has to go on our letterhead, and then I sign and date it at the bottom.
okay.
Um, So all in favor of resolution B?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next, we received a request, and this resolution I pieced together from their letter. So this is a West Wind Orchard request for a letter of support. The town of Rochester authorized the town supervisor to submit a letter of support of the consolidated funding application submitted by West Wind Orchard LLC. The West Wind Orchard Rondout Valley Marketing Campaign will use social media, radio, print, and an improved website to promote West Wind Orchard as a destination for visitors to the area. The promotions will feature a schedule of weekly performances to entertain visitors and attract locals, weekenders, and out-of-towners to the farm. By increasing the number of visitors to the area, this project will leverage the popularity of other agritourism destinations in the town, including Arrowwood Farm Brewery, Hudson Valley Seed Company, and Kelders Farm. These businesses are combining with our new local dining and lodging establishments to make the town of Rochester an increasingly attractive destination for weekend visitors. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. So this request is specifically for their marketing campaign. Because it's going to a regional Mid-Hudson Valley Council, that's the reason that they list all the other businesses in there, because it's looked at as, what will this money do in that when it brings new people to the area, not only West Wind will, be better served, so will all these other venues, which
Michael,
is, yeah.
Now that we have the motion on the floor,
Mhm.
but the money would go to this Westwood,
West Wind Orchard
Orchard
Rondout Valley Marketing Campaign. That is
so
their.
they would be the holders of the grant money if it's given.
Mhm.
Okay, how do we know? And this would be important to the other people who are involved in this, the Hudson Valley Seed Company, Arrowwood Farm Brewery, and Kelders. How do we know that they will get an equal part of the campaigning or the marketing campaigning?
We don't. This is just, those are used just as examples of what else is in the, Chris, maybe you can help me explain this a
Yeah,
little better.
because it would seem to me if they're going to get a grant and they're using the names of these other places,
Yeah.
the other
seems like-
places should get equal publicity in a campaign
Right.
if it's going to happen.
And sometimes people take advantage of other organizations by using their name without their permission. So 2 years ago, I
Thank you.
applied for a CFA grant that was called a local manufacturing feasibility study. And there were 7 partners, and I got a letter of support from all 7 partners.
Okay.
They all knew that I would get the money and administer it to them, but I would get the most. And I made that clear up front. And so everyone who's involved usually negotiates who will do the work and who will get the money. And so someone who's just being mentioned in an ad might not participate a lot, but somebody who's helping hang flyers and do the graphic design will get more money.
I understand, but we don't see that here.
Right, we
That's
don't
something I
get to
would
audit
like
the
to
money.
know. Yeah, we don't get to audit the money, but we get to kind of have input to say that it's okay.
I'm not sure the other people are actually part of the grant. I think they're just being used as examples of new
Mhm.
or other types of agritourism.
Right.
That-
One,
that-
one example is I had Global Center for Social Entrepreneurship as a partner, and they weren't going to get any money, but they gave me a letter of support to strengthen my grant.
Mhm.
I see. So that's basically what this is about, is giving them better strength to obtain the grant.
This is, Weston is trying to market their business to get more
Yes.
people to come to the area with the concept that if more people come to the
Then-
area, they will also visit these other places. And whether they, I suspect because it's the
As like
same
a trickle
names
down.
as in the other letter. I suspect that template letter was created by the Ulster County Economic Development Department.
I have, I have something I
Yeah.
want to speak about with regard to the second letter
Yeah.
later.
But I
Yeah.
suspect that it was prepared by them, and those were just examples of businesses that they used. Whether they asked them for their permission or not to use their names, but I don't believe, it didn't imply to me, reading the letter, that they are a part of the grant in any way.
I
Well-
think some of them also might be also, they might know, but they might be also applying for CFA funding.
Well, I don't know, but that,
Arrowwood
wanna
did get
go-
CFA funding 2 years ago.
yes, it did. I
Or
remember.
last year?
Three,
Three,
Three?
two?
two,
Last
two.
year was a
Last year was
blur.
COVID, so
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
why I'm
2
saying.
years ago, I
three.
believe.
I think so.
is when
Maybe.
Arrowwood got
Yeah.
funding. And they got a very nice sizable amount of funding.
Yeah.
My suspicion is this is a small dollar ask for a marketing campaign. I don't anticipate that it's a large amount of money.
It's, I did ask, and I don't have my computer, but it's, I think, 50,000.
Oh,
they're
it's that
asking
much?
for it.
Okay. I didn't think it would even be
That's,
that
like you presented. I hope that the others who are represented here, and I'm doing this just to get some of this out there because
Mhm.
that the other people that are mentioned
Mhm.
are aware that they're mentioned and say, hey,
Yeah.
maybe we didn't put something up on a
Right.
poll, but, you kind of used our name,
Yeah.
can we get a sign?
Right,
Here's your sign, something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, they're asking for 50,000.
Mike, it does say specifically here that these businesses are combining for a new local dining and lodging
Yes, it does.
establishment. So I was thinking the exact same thing you were, that they were just mentioned because why are these the only four? We have dozens of places
There you
that,
go.
dozens of
yeah,
places that would benefit from more people in
So-
the area.
but it
So-
leads
so
me to think
probably-
that maybe they are part and
Yeah.
parcel of this.
So probably Westwind is, because only one person can apply. You can't have.
Right.
They
four
are the
different agencies.
primary
So Westwind
applier.
is carrying
Chris,
the
is there a good
application.
name for that?
Right.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
Oh, yes, lead agency.
Lead
I-
agency, very good.
I would like to say that I have a business relationship with Westwind, so I will be abstaining from the
Okay.
vote, which is
That's
why
very
I'm
nice.
sort of stepping back, but
Okay,
I do have a business relationship with them, so I feel like
Okay.
okay.
that would be appropriate.
Thanks,
Okay.
Aaron.
But yeah, thank you for
Okay.
pointing that out, Adam. These businesses are combining.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
so again,
So
Yes, I think it's a
but at
good
this
idea,
point,
but I
it's
hope
a
everybody
letter of
gets their fair
support.
share. Yeah.
Sorry, excuse me.
that's
Yeah, no
all right,
problem.
I'm sorry.
It's a letter of support from the town board for economic development. And that's what this
Yeah.
is. It's increasing the opportunity, whether they get it or not. We don't know. We have no idea if 50 people are going to apply. And as I said to you earlier, B, there's hundreds of grant.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure which one they're applying for.
Yeah, they
Uh,
don't tell us. That's the thing. Sometimes I don't think we get enough information.
Yeah.
I was just looking at the CFA application and all of the different categories. So
Mhm.
marketing is one of the categories.
Okay, so it in itself is its own entity.
Yeah, and
marketing.
then in the last 11 years, $6.9 billion has been distributed.
That's very nice.
Okay, any
Thank you.
further questions? Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And Aaron, you're
Abstaining.
abstaining? Okay, thank you for that. This last one, my apologies, came at the last minute today. The Ulster County, and I just gave you a copy of the letter because that's all I was presented. It goes to Dr. Christian, who is the head of the Regional Economic Development Council. That's who reviews these. So the granary project that we voted to do a resolution for the county to apply. I did question the person who sent this to me and said, is this the same project? And the answer was yes, it is the same project. But in addition to that resolution, they would like a letter of support as well. And it was recommended by the County Economic Development that we do this. It came to me at 4 o'clock this afternoon and I said, okay, I'll throw it on tonight and see what people think. But I did question whether it's the same project, and it is indeed the same project. So
It's just additional support.
A letter as
It's
opposed
so
to.
this is
Letter
a
as
letter of
oh, I
support
see.
as opposed to the resolution for the application, which we gave to the county. The county legislature is actually applying for this project
Mhm.
on behalf of the applicant. And then would sign a contract with the applicant to transmit the funding. So,
I'll make the motion.
do you have a second?
I'll second.
Question.
Question? Yep.
Okay, I have no problem with this going out to Dr. Christian or Christiane or whatever his name is, as long as we do one letter for the granary project. No, it's a pain in the neck. If we're going to include the rail trail, the O and W, we do a second letter. And if we're going to do the grant for the Westwood Orchard one, we do a third to make sure that they're not all on the same letterhead, that we have now endorsed 3
Mhm.
and they are done separately as 3, not as a commingled letter.
No, that would not be a commingled letter. I
But the way
misunderstood now.
the way this reads, it reads like we're going to write one letter.
No, we're
I
gonna write 3
believe-
separate letters.
I believe that, and that's my modification to the resolution, that it should, or the writing of the letter, that it should be 3 separate letters. One for the granary project, one for the O and W project, and one for the Westwind Orchard
Sure.
project.
Sure, and my apologies, that's what was always intended, but they would be 3
Okay,
separate
but
letters.
the
I
way-
can see why it is a little
It's confusing.
commingled.
It's
Yeah.
commingled,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I just want to see it all done so that each gets their own due.
Good idea.
Absolutely.
And I would like to change at the bottom for these reasons, we, meaning all of us, and then Mike sign it as town supervisor.
Mhm.
We, the town board, town of Rochester, or wherever we have to put it.
Yeah,
Maybe that
I
would
will-
be a
I
good
will-
place to put
I
it.
will reword then that this is from the town board.
For
not
these
from-
reasons, we, the town board, town of Rochester, strongly endorse
Mhm.
this project, since we're doing 1, and 1,
Mhm.
or, well, it was 1, and 1.
Yep, I have no problem with that. Happy to change I to we wherever it
you.
is in any of the 3.
Because he wrote the letter, so of course he's
Yeah.
he's doing it in the first person.
Okay. So Chris and Adam, are you okay with those
Yes.
changes?
I'll make the motion with those changes.
Okay, and Adam, you're-
I'll be happy to second.
okay. All in favor?
I
Opposed? Abstain. Okay. Thank you. So next, the recommended resolution is the town of Rochester motions to enter an executive session for the purposes of and to invite Assessor Michael Dunham to attend for item number 1. And the 3 purposes, the interview of a particular person for the assessor position, matters leading to the appointment of particular persons to the transfer station labor positions, and discussions of the proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of real property. So do I have that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, questions, discussion? If not, all in favor?
I
Opposed? Abstain.